The movie opens 8 years after the terrifying events of the first film. The blind man who survived the previous incident is now living in a quiet and isolated place far away from the city. He has started a new life with an 11-year-old girl named Phoenix and his loyal dog. Their house stands in a lonely area where there are no neighbors for miles. The blind man lives a very strict and disciplined life, raising Phoenix with intense training and protection. He rarely talks to anyone and keeps their lives completely hidden from the outside world. Phoenix has grown up believing that the blind man is her father and that her real mother died in a tragic house fire many years ago. Because of that story, she has never questioned the strange life she lives with him. Although the blind man is extremely protective, Phoenix sometimes leaves the house with a woman named Hernandez, who acts like a guardian and occasionally takes her into town so she can experience a normal life outside the isolated house. One day, while driving through the city with Hernandez, Phoenix begins thinking about her past. She tells Hernandez that she wishes she could visit the place where her mother died so she could pay her respects. When they arrive near the old house that burned down years ago, Phoenix feels a strange and uneasy emotion. The place looks abandoned and mysterious, and the atmosphere makes her uncomfortable. After only a short moment, she decides to leave quickly. Later, while Hernandez is waiting outside in the car, a group of suspicious men appear nearby. One of them seems to recognize Phoenix, as if he has been searching for her. The situation becomes even more disturbing when one of the gang members secretly enters Hernandez's car and hides in the back seat. As soon as Hernandez gets inside and starts the car, the man suddenly attacks and kills her. Back at the isolated house, the blind man continues his strict routine, unaware of the danger approaching. Phoenix had always been trained to be cautious and alert because the blind man had taught her many survival skills. However, things begin to feel strange when Phoenix does not return home at the expected time. Meanwhile, the gang members begin moving toward the blind man's house, preparing for something far more dangerous. The blind man senses that something is wrong. His instincts tell him that trouble is coming. As night falls and the silence of the isolated area grows heavier, a group of intruders quietly enters the house. But what they do not realize is that the blind man has trained Phoenix her entire life to survive, and the house they have entered may become a deadly trap for anyone who dares to challenge him. Inside the house, Phoenix begins to feel that something is terribly wrong. She carefully walks through the rooms, trying to understand what is happening. When she approaches one of the doors, she suddenly notices a strange man standing outside. Startled, she quickly locks the door from the inside, realizing that dangerous people have surrounded the house. Fear starts to build inside her, but she remembers the survival training the blind man has given her since childhood. Instead of panicking, Phoenix immediately tries to find a safe place to hide. She quietly moves through the house and heads toward the basement. The basement was specially designed by the blind man as a secure hiding place in case of emergencies. When Phoenix reaches it, she quickly climbs inside a heavy metal safety box and locks herself in. The box is extremely strong and almost impossible to open from the outside, and it even has small breathing holes so someone inside can survive for a long time. It becomes clear that the blind man had built this hidden protection system long ago, preparing for a moment exactly like this. Meanwhile, the gang members continue searching through the house. One of them eventually finds the entrance to the basement and starts investigating the area. At the same time, the blind man quietly moves through the dark house, using his sharp hearing and experience to track the intruders. Although he cannot see, he knows every corner of the house and moves silently like a hunter waiting for the right moment. Soon, one of the criminals comes face to face with the blind man. A sudden fight breaks out between them, and during the struggle a gunshot is fired. The noise echoes through the basement and alerts the other gang members that something is happening below. As the tension rises, another criminal rushes into the basement and begins searching for Phoenix. After some time, the man finally discovers the locked metal box. Realizing that someone is hiding inside, he starts trying to force it open. At that moment, he senses that the blind man is nearby. Knowing he is being hunted, the criminal quickly grabs the metal box and prepares a cruel plan. He threatens that if the blind man does not reveal himself, he will flood the box with water and drown whoever is trapped inside. To prove that he is serious, the man opens a nearby pipe and begins filling the basement with water. Slowly, the water level begins rising around the box where Phoenix is hiding. Inside the metal container, Phoenix struggles to stay calm while the water creeps higher and higher. The criminal believes this will force the blind man to surrender. But the blind man is not someone who gives up easily. Realizing the danger Phoenix is in, he prepares to confront the intruder directly. Even though the criminal has the advantage of sight and weapons, the blind man relies on his strength, experience, and survival instincts. As the water continues rising and the situation becomes more desperate, a brutal fight between the two men becomes inevitable. As the water in the basement continues to rise, Phoenix struggles inside the metal box, desperately trying to stay calm. At the same time, the blind man silently approaches the criminal who is threatening her. In a sudden and violent moment, he pulls the man away from the box and drags him toward another part of the basement where a gas cylinder has been leaking. The gas quickly fills the room, and during the struggle the criminal is exposed to it and dies, ending the immediate danger. With the attacker gone, the blind man quickly opens the metal box and pulls Phoenix out before the rising water can harm her. However, their escape is not over yet. As they try to leave the house, another man suddenly appears outside. He tells Phoenix that she should not be afraid of him and claims that the blind man she has been living with is actually the dangerous one. Before the man can explain further, the blind man attacks him. But the stranger's companions arrive and manage to capture the blind man. The man then reveals his identity to Phoenix. He shows her that parts of his hair are turning white in the same unusual pattern as hers. He tells her that she is actually his daughter and that his name is Raylan. According to him, many years ago their house caught fire, and after the incident he was arrested by the police and spent 8 years in prison. During that time he believed his daughter had died in the fire. When he recently saw Phoenix visiting the ruins of the old house, he realized that she had survived and that the blind man had taken her away. After revealing this shocking story, Raylan orders his men to kill the blind man. But the blind man uses his skills and experience to break free and escape. While Raylan sends one of his men to take Phoenix away, he personally begins chasing the blind man through the house. Meanwhile, Phoenix refuses to give up without fighting. When one of the criminals tries to drag her away, she suddenly attacks him and manages to injure him. Furious, the man tries to retaliate, but at that exact moment the blind man appears and kills him before he can hurt Phoenix. The two of them rush back into the house to find another way out. The blind man quickly tells Phoenix to escape through a lower exit and run outside. Just then, another member of the gang arrives and attacks them. Instead of killing him, the blind man traps the attacker behind a metal barrier, buying Phoenix enough time to escape downstairs and reach the outside area. But Phoenix's freedom lasts only a few seconds. One of Raylan's men suddenly appears and knocks her unconscious. After capturing her, Raylan orders the entire house to be burned down. Flames quickly spread through the building while the blind man and his loyal dog are still trapped inside. Raylan and his gang leave the area, believing that the fire will finish the job. Inside the burning house, the blind man first frees his injured dog. Then, despite the raging flames, he manages to jump out of a window and escape just before the house collapses. He survives once again. When Phoenix finally wakes up, she finds herself in a room at a small hotel. Sitting in front of her is Raylan. He calmly repeats his claim that he is her real father and tells her that she is free to leave if she wants. Confused and overwhelmed, Phoenix begins to walk away. But then she suddenly hears a familiar song being sung nearby, a song she remembers from her childhood. It was the same lullaby her mother used to sing to her. When Phoenix turns around, she sees a woman sitting in a wheelchair. The moment she sees her, Phoenix begins to realize that this woman might actually be her real mother. Phoenix runs toward the woman in the wheelchair and hugs her, believing that she has finally found her real mother. The woman is weak and clearly very sick. She explains that years ago, during the fire that destroyed their house, dangerous chemicals were released. When the fire spread, those toxic chemicals entered her body and severely damaged her blood. Because of this, her heart can no longer properly purify the blood in her body. She tells Phoenix that her condition has become critical and that she now desperately needs a heart transplant to survive. While Phoenix listens to this heartbreaking story, Raylan quietly gives her a drink that has been mixed with a sleeping drug. As Phoenix begins to feel dizzy, her mother gently tells her that she needs her more than anything else. She explains that a heart transplant works best when the donor is a close family member. Slowly, Phoenix begins to realize the horrifying truth behind their plan, but by then the drug has already taken effect and she loses consciousness. Meanwhile, the blind man has been following their trail. Outside the hotel, he encounters one of Raylan's men. Using his skills and stealth, he silently kills the guard and steals his vehicle, determined to rescue Phoenix no matter what it takes. Raylan, on the other hand, is already preparing for the transplant surgery. He takes Phoenix to another hidden location where a doctor is ready to perform the operation as quickly as possible. At the location, Raylan orders the doctor to prepare everything immediately. He wants the surgery to begin as soon as possible. However, when one of his men goes to check the area, the blind man suddenly appears and kills him before he can raise the alarm. Soon after, Raylan arrives and realizes that the blind man has followed them all the way to this place. Understanding the danger, Raylan orders his remaining men to search the building and kill him. While Raylan prepares to move Phoenix and his sick wife to another area, his men begin searching through the basement of the building. When they enter the dark basement, they see what appears to be the blind man's body lying on the ground surrounded by water. Believing he is already dead, they step into the water to get closer. But the blind man is not dead at all. Using the sound of the ripples in the water to track their movements, he suddenly attacks. Within seconds, he shoots 3 of the men with deadly precision. Only one of them survives. Instead of killing the last man, the blind man tells him that he wants to help him. The blind man explains that what Raylan is planning to do is completely wrong, and that Phoenix is about to be murdered for her heart. Meanwhile, Raylan begins moving Phoenix, his sick wife, and the doctor through another part of the building. The blind man continues pursuing them through the dark hallways. When he finally reaches them, a violent confrontation begins. In the chaos, the blind man manages to kill the doctor before the surgery can begin. The building is now mostly dark, giving the blind man a huge advantage because he knows how to fight without relying on sight. Realizing this, Raylan desperately tries to break open a large glass window to bring more light into the room, hoping it will weaken the blind man's advantage. As the confrontation continues, the blind man and Raylan clash again in a brutal fight. Raylan is desperate and furious, knowing that his plan is falling apart. During the struggle, he blames the blind man for everything that has happened and accuses him of ruining his family. In the chaos, Raylan's sick wife is caught in the middle of the conflict. The situation quickly spirals out of control, and she is accidentally killed during the violent struggle. At that moment, Phoenix regains consciousness and realizes what is truly happening around her. She sees that both men have been fighting over her life for their own reasons. As the fight continues, Phoenix tries to escape the room, but Raylan suddenly attacks her again in a final desperate attempt to complete his twisted plan. Before he can harm her, the blind man steps in once more and confronts Raylan. Even though he is badly injured and exhausted from the previous fights, he refuses to let Raylan take Phoenix's life. The 2 men fight fiercely, and in the end the blind man manages to overpower him. Raylan is finally defeated, bringing an end to the terrifying nightmare. By now, the blind man is severely wounded and can barely stand. As Phoenix watches him struggle, she begins to understand the complicated truth about the man who raised her. Although he had done terrible things in the past, he also saved her life and protected her for many years. Realizing this, Phoenix decides to leave the place and finally start a new life away from the violence that surrounded her childhood. Some time later, Phoenix is shown living safely with other children in a new home, where she finally has the chance to experience a normal life. Meanwhile, the blind man lies dying from his injuries. In his final moments, he reflects on everything that has happened and the choices he made throughout his life. The story ends with Phoenix moving forward and leaving the past behind, while the blind man's long and violent journey finally comes to an end. So if you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more intense and mind-blowing movie breakdowns just like this one.